Alright. I do not know which one is. I also need my program. I'm unstable though. Wow, is my internet being shit now? That would be fucking terrible. Why is my Twitch in the shitter? I see that. Okay, so I crashed. That's fantastic. Hopefully he doesn't do that again. Couldn't really peel very well without my 2. Just need Artemis sticking out instead of fighting back. It's not a really good matchup for us early on with Ymir. That sucks though.
Your left tower is under attack.
Hey, Nectora. It still says that my stream is running like shit for some reason. Feel free to let me know if it also looks like shit. I don't know what's happening with it. My bitrate is just red on Twitch, but not on my OBS, so it seems to be a Twitch problem. Looks fine. Okay. I don't know what's happening then. Hopefully it doesn't crash again. Okay. Didn't see Loki around. Zombie, I guess.
An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Nice job. Your right tower is under attack.
Be careful left.
Enemy missing right. Be careful left.
Be careful.
No problem. Nice job.
On my way. Help!
close.
See ya.
I really don't actually want to back yet. Okay, now my bid rate is back to being green. I don't know what happened, but I guess my
Enemy ultimate down.
stream crashed early on. I guess that's fine, or not. It's not ideal, but I can still upload the VOD at least, mostly full.
Hey, ultimate down. Your left tower is under attack. Killing spree.
Thanks.
I don't know what's happening with Saul, but she's definitely shitting on
Your
Merlin.
left tower is under attack.
I'm not complaining. I need to be carried. I'm support. Best case scenario for me is I'm gonna get a bunch of plugs this game. But when I do, I'm gonna get fucking Cupid ulted. Ymir walled. Frozen.
Enemy missing left.
All of the fun stuff.
Enemy missing left.
That sucks.
That's too bad.
Oof.
An enemy.
Thank you, Mystical Male. My savior. I guess I won't do this, just in case. Don't want to deny Artemis. Okay, I can. She got those.
An enemy has been slain.
Thanks. You rock.
Oh, you rock my world.
What do I build? I guess Stampede. Don't know why I'm even thinking about it. Always Stampede.
On my way. Your left tower is under attack.
Don't have any blocks yet. No, it didn't go off in time. I was in animation, man. That's so annoying. I don't know why Artemis didn't just ult.
An enemy has been slain.
At least we got support for support, but that was a bit awkward.
Bye.
Ah.
Killing spree. Curses.
Diablo 3 sucks. Diablo 3 is always kind of special to me, because I was a teenager at the time. And when it came out, it was just the hottest shit. A lot of people really disliked it.
Enemy left. Be careful.
That was out of this world.
Enemy missing right. No problem.
Be careful left. All with that. Face the enemy.
Be careful. That's too bad.
Stop doing my backing at least a little bit.
Cancel that. On my way.
An ally has been slain. Enemies incoming left. Shut down.
I can't rotate, man. We're just gonna lose all this farm for no reason. Excuse me, no reason.
Your middle tower is under attack.
And I kinda need the farm as well.
Enemies incoming right. Cancel.
Attack.
An ally has been slain.
No problem. Well, that sucked.
Gang, enemy spotted.
Pyromancer has arrived. An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack. Slain an enemy.
Way to step up to the plate.
Be right back.
Let's get that. I'll wait for one ward. I've never been a huge fan of like ARPGs, and not action, but asymmetrical. I just don't like the camera angle very much. Like Diablo is almost the only thing I've ever played like that. And Hades as a roguelike was also pretty cool. I like Hades a lot. But generally that camera angle just doesn't really do much for me.
Gank left lane.
Oh my god, why am I just stuttering like this? What is happening?
Attack left tower.
What the hell was that? That was so weird.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
I assume you guys saw that too, right? What the fuck was that? That's never happened before.
Rampage. Slain. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Your right tower is under attack.
Games that offer necromancy.
Attack the Gold Fury.
On my way.
Your right tower is under attack.
Now that I think about it, there's not really that many games like that. That's true.
On my way.
Attack the Gold Fury.
Yeah. On my way. Gank. Gank.
Gank.
Unstoppable.
Attack the Gold Fury.
Yes.
On my way. On my way.
Attack the Gold
Your
Fury.
left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed. An enemy has been slain.
Be careful.
I think I've said this a lot for my to my friends as well. I feel like there's just not that many good games that has vampires as well as a theme. So that's always been interesting to me as well, because it feels like it's like vampire is such a popular thing, but at the same time, there's no like big like vampire RPG, right? Not as far as I know. The closest I feel like I really got to that experience was V Rising.
I'll defend left
Attack
lane.
fire giant.
Nice.
On my way.
I'm kind of just building like a solo at this point. But I mean, we're pretty much the same tank items that are being used. The thing is with the vampire games though, like the Witcher 3 studio or like the CG Project Red, like off-branch self-studio now is doing like the vampire Witcher basically, that they announced recently. I forgot the exact name. It has Dawn in it. I forgot what the exact name is.
I'll gank right lane.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Follow me. On my way.
Double kill. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Because that one looks really cool, and we should get some more info during the summer coming up. So.
Enemy missing left.
Let's get some Magi's for this Ymir. Yeah, what are my enemies doing? It's definitely a mixed bag in terms of skill levels, that's for sure.
Fire giant.
I don't know, but my Sol is also doing very well, who I do not know who is.
Help. Enemies in left lane. Enemy missing.
Attack left lane.
Be careful.
Gank! Chase the enemy!
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Okay,
And right lane.
please!
Your middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, poor Nika. I mean, he's not the only one like struggling this game. So It does feel cheeky though. I had one of my worst experiences yesterday, off stream. I was against April and Deathwalker, and normally I would say that's fine, but I have not been camped that hard in a long time. Happened 2 games in a row. The first one was an Achilles. It was pretty difficult to deal with, because Achilles is not good at being ganked really. He doesn't have really particularly good escapability, I would say.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Group up. Attack Fire Giant.
Enemy missing.
But the second game I was playing Chalk, and I was against them again, and I expected a bit more there, but it still happened. Like, I still got killed a few times before I was able to turn it around. I came back in that game though, but
Sure.
still lost.
Retreat right lane. Please. Gank. Gank.
Why are we chasing him though? We should just do the objective. Like, they literally just see us on the map. If we get him, that's great. But if we don't get him, then it's just awkward.
I'll defend middle lane. Attack the fire giant.
The Pyromancer has arrived. Your middle tower is under attack.
What is this? We should have him when he gets the slow, yeah.
An ally has been slain. An enemy
Attack
has been
Fire
slain.
Giant. Enemy missing.
Completed.
I need to finish my starter as well, I keep forgetting. Support.
Your right tower is under attack. No problem.
Like, I went into Deathwalker's chat as well after it happened, and he also said it was like, he simply said, "I hope you don't die." It didn't die of cringe, which I actually kind of did. I tilted so hard that I went all the way back around and untilted.
Face time to my will.
It was something.
Defend left lane.
Gank.
Sure.
On my way. Your left tower is under attack.
On my way.
Attack.
Attack middle lane.
Feel the power of a death star. Not so fast.
We need someone to attack a Phoenix though. I tanked that shit for so long and it hasn't fucking barely moved. We haven't killed anything either. But it's fine, Artemis got the right one at least.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy Phoenix.
Is Beats good here? Probably. If anything, just for myself.
Full Fury.
Do they have a lot of anti-healing?
I'll attack left lane.
Sure.
A little bit. Enough for me to not want to go Phoenix Feather. Hold the Beats.
Attack the Gold Fury.
you doing?
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. No problem. Group up.
Group up, please.
On my way. Hey, wait. No problem.
Destroyed a left enemy Phoenix.
Step up to the plate.
Freshly sharpened.
Yeah, this was pretty much just felt like the Soul show, honestly.
Victory.
But Merlin is also just not the player here, but Merlin as a god. I feel like he's so bad right now. He's so bad. Damn, bots did not do a lot of damage. Damn it. Yeah, it sucks I missed that. I made it. This map definitely goes better once I actually just keep the momentum and I don't need to stop. No. Oh well. Pretty much the same team I had before, except for Sol. No.
Select your god.
Cabrakan, huh? We're really not banning Cabrakan now. Banning Aladdin instead. Oh, the sun's on my face. Go away, vitamin D. don't need you right now. Welcome back, Natura. But yeah, and if you like Souls-like games, Natura, there is a potential recommendation from that came out today. It's not so much about necromancy, but it is pretty dark. Those Souls-like usually are. They always have a pretty dark theme. If you're like looking for game suggestions, it's not exactly necromancy that is involved in it, but it does have a, like a barbarian theme, basically. Summon based, yeah, fair enough. That's not really this. He did say he was gonna dodge. You can always play, I don't know, you can play Elden Ring. Elden Ring does have the summons, but it's obviously not like necromancy, it's more like summoning ghosts. Can't be missing these early fucking jumps now. I'm regressing. Oh, this is just horseshit. Yeah, no, that wasn't horseshit. All the trucks were gone. That went too fast. Again. Sometimes they get stuck. The RNG definitely fucks you over sometimes in this game. No, what hit me? Aw. I think I was fucked anyway, but... How did I die there? Aw, bacon. Wait, what did I pick? Can I see it? Not Afro Aries, no. Bari? No, Vulcan. Okay. Vulcan, huh? I kind of want to play Hercules, so I'll do that. Yeah, Remnant is pretty cool. It's also a Souls-like, but it's like a shooter, so it doesn't really feel like a Souls-like in the same way. But those are also really cool thematically, and I still haven't finished the second one, but that's just because I'm playing with a friend, and yeah, well, we both need time to finish that stuff, and sometimes it's just hard to find the time. But I do like them a lot. And if I was playing it myself, I would have finished it long ago. get stuck beneath it. Definitely both. They're both really good. And like obviously starting with the first one makes more sense because the second one is just a better version of the this first one pretty much. Like it just upgrade gameplay and everything. Like more mechanics. Like it was made by a pretty small team from the first one. So like don't expect any kind of insane masterpiece, but they're really cool. Oh, I forgot to even show this game. Don't worry, I didn't make any progress. Didn't matter. What am I against? Mulan. Huh. Mulan. I'll play it safe. If anything, I do not want to fall behind Mulan. I feel like Herc is probably the only god that could maybe even lose to Mulan early on, just because of how bad he is early on. With his longest cooldowns. Yeah, I feel like the 2 is gonna taste better once you've played the first one.
Woohoo! Okay, my friend. Sorry. No problemo. Help! Help! Left lane! Minions have spawned. You're welcome.
I gotta just chill for now. I should win once we hit level 3. I should just, for the most part, out damage what she's doing, but
Your left tower is under attack. That's too bad.
well, that was bad. I had to try though.
First blood. An enemy has been slain.
I'm so bad, man. I'm so bad. Like, why am I doing that? I knew doing that was a bad idea because I was gonna get creep aggro.
Your left tower is under attack.
That was so stupid. I did the one thing I said I shouldn't do, which was die early, because she also has one more item than I do, so she will just automatically do more damage. I should only really fight if I get the lane clear. Sloppy and stupid.
Attack! Missing middle.
There's no way I missed. Dude, that was a... Damn. Today is not my day so far, holy shit. I guess I'll zone to try and take back what I lost, I guess.
Ally has been slain. Okay.
Like, unless I keep fucking up like that, I should still win this matchup. Especially because he's going for damage and I'm going for Mystical Mail. I'm such a controller gamer these days. It just feels way more comfortable to me. That is spite, obviously, but... Like new games, if I can play them with a controller, I generally will. And so many games that like, these days are just made for controllers, it feels like. Especially if you're someone like me who just likes Souls-likes. All those are fucking made for controlling. For controllers. Not long now, and Mystical Mail is online.
An ally has been slain.
Enemy missing leg.
An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack.
It's way too close. I fucked that up again by missing my boulder.
You're welcome. Curses. Illuminating.
Granted though, that is not a trade I should have won in the first place. He had Rune Forged, I had nothing.
Expensive.
That's actually very surprising I even won that. Damn. If I knew he had that, I would not have tried to fight. That was really stupid of me.
I'm on my way.
An ally has been slain.
Ah, this sucks, man. That's so terrible, I actually TP'd for this. I thought that was gonna be better for us. I would have expected them to use stuff.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That's too bad.
Your left tower is under
Enemy
attack.
missing middle. Be careful.
Enemy missing leg. Enemy spotted.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome.
I can't hit my one. Dude, I don't know what's happening with my Hercules gameplay today. It's wild. I cannot hit my one for some reason.
On my way.
I was plugged.
Oh, the heal on hits too.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
Yeah, you can co-op with a friend in Remnant.
Your
Up to
right
3,
tower
I guess?
is under
4?
attack.
Something like that.
Enemy missing middle.
I can't believe I died even once in this matchup. Actually bothers me so much.
Be careful, right.
Enemy missing left. Killing spree.
Awesome. Fine.
Your right tower is under attack. Killing spree.
Okay.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Let's finish some stuff. Can't even actually finish it. It's tragic.
I'm on my way.
No XP for that, but at least I got blue this time. Before the Wheelix steals it.
Pyromancer has arrived.
Your left tower is under attack.
Ultimate is down.
Your middle tower is under attack. Down.
This guy really wants to fight too.
Killing spree.
Follow me. Awesome. You're here.
I think once I have more cooldown and I can actually spam my abilities a bit more, I should win this matchup pretty easily.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Should have been winning it earlier though. If I just didn't die. Sundered me?
They're on fire, never mind, they're on fire.
I had to run away because of that. Fuck me.
An ally has been slain. Shut down. The enemy team has destroyed the pyramid. Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed. Enemy missing leg. Your left
I need this fucking cooldown so badly. It's actually kind of insane. Probably just gonna do Erendite as well, for the speed,
Your left
as well as some
tower
damage.
has been destroyed.
I hate that the small lead I ended up giving him early on is the reason why. Well, they also get gold and stuff. Actually, are they? How is he so far ahead of me? They must have gotten gold. There's no way he's 1500 gold ahead of me without them getting something. Oh, they got Pyro.
Is under attack.
Surely that's still not... That's crazy, actually. Why am I so far behind?
Retreat!
I think it's time that I just rotate a bit more.
Have fun!
Enemy missing left. An enemy has been slain. You have slain an enemy.
Help! Right lane!
An ally has been
From the
slain.
heart of the silver moon. Okay.
Your right tower is under attack. Shut down. Your right tower is under attack.
We're just slapfesting at this point.
Pyromancer has arrived. Attack! An ally has been slain. You have slain an enemy.
Ward, the Gold Fury ultimate is ready!
I can beat this under my belt.
I just need to play around my cooldowns now.
Enemies at the Gold Fury! Defend!
Completed.
Hey, Noctura, yeah, I'm just focused, and both of you guys messages are purple, so you blend in very well, and when you've been speaking so much, I have a hard time just looking over and telling the difference.
Party ends.
But honey,
Triple kill! Second spree. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
You rock!
What next? What next? I'll probably just get Stampede, actually. It's never really bad, and I feel like I do need the movement speed.
Be careful, right! Enemy missing!
Purple is a good color. It just blends a lot when the whole chat is purple. The colors exist for a reason, is so you can differentiate. She got stuck on the wall. That was really unfortunate. I didn't notice that happening. The Wheelix.
Retreat completed. Healing. Retreat.
Okay.
Completed. No problem. No problem.
We're fighting. Let me get this so I can rotate. Why are we going in?
Shut down.
Enemies at the Cold Fury.
Illuminating. Enemy ultimate down. An ally has been slain. You have slain an enemy.
He caught my dash. That's crazy. Oh my god. He actually caught my dash. The instant that I dashed. That's crazy.
Bye.
Attack!
Completed.
Yes!
Fuel for the fire. I need to refuel. Fuel for the fire.
Unstoppable.
I'm the greatest.
Deicide. You light up my world.
Awesome.
Nice jump.
Group up. Attack the Cold
I
Fury.
mean, you can play it solo as well. It's a great solo game. You don't have to play it co-op. It's just a choice. So if you prefer just playing solo, you can do that too.
Ward the fire giant.
On my way!
On my way. Enemies incoming. Ward here. Retreat. Group up.
ultimate incoming.
Group up.
Enemies at the fire giant.
Enemies in middle lane.
Careful left. An ally has been slain. Shut down.
I tried to just do some damage. I don't know where Thor is running around doing waves in mid.
An enemy has been slain.
She's dead.
Ally has been slain.
It really does not feel like I'm tanky at all, man. Though I suppose I'm not. Especially not to Vulcan. Wasn't really even him that did the most damage to me, though. It's fucking Medusa still. I have 2 protection items against her.
Killing spree.
Fuel for the fire.
Yeah, Kiprik. Yeah, I think staying on fighting and taking at least fire off of 1 is also fine. I actually think he did an okay choice there.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyramids. Your right
was a bad
tower
sunder.
is under attack. The enemy team has
I thought it was fine. Like Cupid had the chance to get more kills than just on the Sobek there.
Your right
If we
tower
got Medusa as well, it would have been super worth it for us. So I thought it was worth a try.
Gank, right lane, left lane. Enemies in left lane.
Your right tower is under attack. Enemy spotted. Double kill. Killing spree.
I don't know, man. I pressed beads 3 times, they never popped.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. Your left phoenix is under attack. Double kill.
That sucks, man. Why is he so fucking fast? He had speed buff, I guess. So fucking fast. Surely she doesn't get the Phoenix here. I think she dies. But yeah, that's good. I need to finish my starter here. I really do. I have been playing this game so sloppy. Like this, yeah, I don't even know. I feel like I could have actually carried this game if I just played it better. It's not like I'm playing bad per se, but I'm pretty disappointed with a lot of plays I've made this game.
Your right tower is under attack. The pyromancer has arrived. Your right tower is under attack. The enemy team has
I'll probably go for some
destroyed the
damage for my last item as well,
Left Phoenix
once I've
is
done
under
with
attack.
Magi's. If I get that far.
On my way. Group up. Completed. Enemy ultimate down. yourself! Save yourself! Save yourself!
Retreat!
I don't know why I fucking tried to save him.
Enemies at the fire giant.
Yes! Whoops!
I don't know why I even tried. He was Kepri ulted. I just thought he was gonna try and fight back as he was getting Kepri ulted. And yeah.
Completed.
Quiet! Enemy missing!
We really need that Magi's. That was a really good fight too. I hate that I fucked that up. We just shouldn't have chased it. Like, if you had to kill anyone there, it had to be the Vulcan. There's absolutely no way we should ever look for the Mulan. We did not have the two characters who can kill Mulan, we're dead.
Enemies in
Left
middle
lane,
lane.
enemies incoming!
I think it's fine.
Ultimate is down.
Completed!
Ah, never
Bye.
mind. He is not. He is not fine.
Enemy spotted!
An ally has been slain.
Yes!
Has arrived.
There's no fucking way they keep getting away with this shit. Blinker Wheelix.
They left fire, so it's okay. Mulan went base, Awilix went base as well.
Enemy spotted. Enemies at the fire giant.
They haven't started it yet. They're looking for a pick, don't walk up. Dude, how we keep getting... I don't understand where our damage is going, I have to admit here. I pulled Vulcan or someone else so many times and we're still missing them on the plugs themselves.
Double kill. Killing spree. Deicide.
Like, I don't want to start pointing fingers, but every single time I have pulled someone and dashed them, people have still used them, used all their shit on the pull itself where they land. Wait for the push. Wait for the push, then you damage. That's just unfortunate. We threw this one so hard.
That's too bad.
Kepri also got caught, that was obviously also pretty bad.
Defeat.
I'm a bit sad about that one. I thought that game was in our hands more than it was in the enemies. Nah, I think I'm pretty disappointed in this one, unfortunately. I think I could have played this game much better. Like, for starters, not dying to the Mulan at level, what, 2 or 3 or whatever it was. That was the biggest mistake I made this game. I gave a lead I shouldn't have given. I killed her after, but like, getting that early death was just really, really bad into a Mulan who already has a terrible early game. So, oh well. It is a team game, but that's the thing. I prefer to look at what I'm doing, not so much my team. I'll be disappointed once in a while when my team does stuff, but for the most part, I want to judge what I'm doing. What are we banning though? Probably just Caprakan. There's no way I'm letting that shit through without being first pick. I think solo is pretty often top damage, to be fair. And in this game, we did a lot of slap fighting with like me and Mulan. That's the only reason why we both had such high damage. Mulan was almost top damage as well in that game. That's just because we were fighting as much as we were. It's fake damage. I'll play Thorn. I get you though. Like obviously, being top damage is never a bad thing, but I think as solo there is definitely a lot of fake damage involved, depending on how much you slap fight in solo. In that one, it was pretty fucking high because we were both full tanks with mystical mail. There's gonna be a lot of fake damage on that list. It's not like I did bad teamfight damage though, but I would have liked to do a bit more. Man, right there is when I'm not too sure what to do. I feel like I'm always too far away from the other trucks at the end. I got baited by the one truck laying down. It's in the air! No! The fucking truck was in the air. I thought I could make it to that one. I will say, I'm definitely getting a little tired of this level. I've seen it a lot by now. I just gotta man the fuck up and just do it. Alright, see you later, Nectar. Enjoy. What am I against? It's gonna be Uller? Maybe? Maybe. I'll do a safe start, because I don't think I want to do Axe in this one. I want to do Mystical Mail, probably into Rune Forge, then maybe I'll go for some damage after that.
Minions have spawned.
There is a new game I want to play that came out today. It came out like in, Actually, I think it came out like 30 minutes ago. Fully unlocked here in EU at least. It's the first Berserker Kazan. It's like a Souls-like with a pretty cool art style. I played the demo for it, which is really good. So I hope the full game is as good.
Okay.
It's partly why I wanted to stream earlier today, because I think I just want to play that when it comes out. With the time that I have tonight. I have to be against Uller, right? It's gotta be Uller solo. Unless it's Uller jungle, but it's Ducky. I would imagine he's solo. If I had to guess.
Okay.
I haven't seen Duck in a long ass time. The Warriors Axe, man. That shit hurts.
Enemies in right lane. Your left tower is under attack.
Dude, the creeps don't attack in the bush. That's so annoying, man. He should have died by jumping on me, because the creep would get aggro, but the creeps ignore you if you're in the bush. Some tilting ass shit. Screw you, creeps. Fuck you, creeps.
On my way.
An enemy has been slain.
On my way.
An ally has been slain. under it. Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack.
Ain't no way, dude. I couldn't help it. I had to go for it. I didn't expect him to turn the X mid. I thought I could just hammer out in time. Shit. Well, now I'm just trolling.
I believe in you.
Savage.
Your left tower
Damn.
is under attack.
Oh well, at least it's gonna be hard to kill me now that I have Mystical Mail. I'll go Runeforge next.
Enemy missing left.
I'm also just very surprised how much damage he's doing to me with as an Ullr early game. Like Ullr doesn't fucking no damage if I play him early game. Fucking hell. Part of it is also just Warrior's Axe healing him. He feels a lot more tanky than he should.
On my way.
I can probably just play the poke game a bit better than I have been.
Enemy ultimate down! Enemy missing left. An enemy has been slain. Nice work. I'm impressed.
Wasn't sure if he TP'd, so I want to stick around just in case.
Okay. Ultimate is down.
It's back. What does he have? Trans? That makes sense. Standard stuff.
Enemy missing left. Rampage. Enemy missing left. That's be careful,
a problem.
middle. Killing spree. Fight to the fullest. You have slain an enemy.
Wherever there are gods in need, I'll be there.
An enemy has been slain.
Turn and fight.
Press. I'm the greatest.
I don't think I can kill it.
On my way. On my way.
Away we go!
Be right back. Out of mana. Yes. Retreat.
Now I'm just too tanky to really just be killed. So it's no longer a skill diff. Now it's a build diff. For a little while at least. It is weird though. I'm definitely having one of those days where I just feel like mechanically I just can't get it right. It's just an off day for me. Which is annoying, but it does happen, so it's important not to let it get to you. Well, I thought we were diving, then we just didn't go in at all.
An ally has been slain.
Oh well. I tried to just land fast as well. Who did we fight in the jungle? I don't even know what happened there.
Your right tower is under attack.
Weird. I'm gonna stop trolling a bit now, because it's getting silly. I'm just diving for no reason. Need to stop and control myself a bit before it takes... just completely takes me over. Ducky's playing well though. Like, I'm not expecting him to hit every axe, but he literally is.
Your right
He
tower
missed one
is
there,
under
and
attack.
I took the chance, and I got a bit greedy as a result of it. But he really is just hitting almost every axe. It's hard for me to deal with.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy missing left. Slain an enemy. An ally has been slain.
Wherever there are gods in need, I'll be there.
Tower is under attack. Retreat. She's coming.
Turn and fight. Enemy missing right!
Agni coming.
ultimate is down. What a great fight!
The Gold Fury! Ward the Gold Fury!
Enemy missing left.
I really like having Aaron died, but I'm not really sure how good it is after the nerf to buy and solo specifically.
Your last tower is under attack.
Ultimate is ready!
Okay.
Slain an enemy.
Complete.
Enemy ultimate down.
I think he was trying to bait me to do it over the wall, so I was waiting for my hammer in case he was gonna jump. But all good.
Your right tower is under attack.
They're getting smacked. Unfortunately, I'm also getting smacked. We're kind of just smacking each other. He soloed me twice. I think that was my first solo kill on him. Actually, so. And realistically, I should never have lost this matchup just based on the gods that I'm playing and he's playing.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Behind us.
Am I gonna be super fucking greedy here? Yes, yes I am. Shut up, Nate. Shut up, Nate.
Your middle
I
tower
played
is
top
under attack.
in the game of Smite. But realistically, I prefer being bottom, so sometimes, you know, it just doesn't go your way. It is very sunny, yeah. Actually, is it? Yeah, it is. I know my camera sometimes just is super bright for some reason at times. It is in fact sunny at the moment.
Attacking Gold Fury.
Enemy missing left.
Retreat.
Your middle tower is under attack. On my way. Your right tower is under attack.
Why are we chasing the Athena? Don't chase the Athena.
An ally has been slain.
Be right back. Be right back.
I'm just, dude, I'm just dead? What? How did that go so bad? Stop fighting, man! What's happening?
Enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
How did that go so bad? I don't even know. Without getting a single kill when we were ahead. Granted, we do have a non-traditional support in Hunbots, so he can't really support super well with that when his ult is
Your
down.
middle tower is under attack.
He does have aspect, actually, never mind, he does have the stun.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been
This
destroyed.
Cupid shitting on me. He did so much damage.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Got flanked, okay. I don't feel like a tank anymore. I did go Erendite, but I still feel so squishy now.
In our favor.
An enemy has been slain.
I believe in you.
By a giant.
May your battles be glorious.
Thanks. Your right tower is under attack.
It's back.
Okay. An ally has been slain.
Kept trying to fucking cough into the microphone. Should have worded the bush as I usually do.
An enemy has been slain.
Even the perfect plan can fail.
Fire giant.
Defend. Be right back.
All we need to do was kill Cupid once, I guess. Then we get fire.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid.
Probably gonna have to go for a Magi's. Should honestly have had it a while ago, to be honest. Maybe I should have done that instead of Britwin first. Just because Uller and Athena is pretty fucking rough. Agni as well, actually. They have 3 somewhat long-range CCs.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Bye.
On my way.
Attack right lane.
Okay.
Bit stupid.
Damn, that's loud. I even turned it down so much. Some people are still super loud. I don't know why I'm one split pushing, but whatever. That's what it is.
An enemy has been slain.
Stand your ground.
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Older beats. Well, that's dagger, unfortunately. We just gotta group, man. It's super weird. If we group, we have such a good team comp.
Pyromancer has
And such a good all-in comp as well. If we just all go in on the same targets, we should just win the fights, I feel like, but... Oh well. I want to get some attack speed. I don't need it, I just really like it.
killing spree.
Completed.
The enemy team has destroyed
That's
the
so
pyro.
close.
Your left tower is under attack.
I actually thought I was gonna get it. Felt like I timed it perfectly.
Your right tower is under attack.
On my way. Defend the fire giant.
Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Ultimate is your left tower is under attack. You have slain an enemy. An enemy has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
Thought actually that was gonna block her off.
Nice work. Yes. Attack fire giant. Your middle tower is under attack.
I actually want to keep my region, to be honest. I think I want to buy some wards, but I want to be able to region up even more.
Enemies have returned to me.
I want that crazy HP 5.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Attack middle lane. The pyro has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Ultimate is ready.
Turn and fight.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy base. Your team has destroyed a right enemy phoenix. Attack the Gold Fury.
It's chasing me forever. I'm glad I timed my dagger correctly, because that could have been pretty bad if I didn't. But the fact that they all chased me and didn't get me in the end just gave us 2 free phoenixes.
An ally has been slain. Retreat!
I feel like we're making the mistake of focusing their tanks. Like, we should not be focusing their 2 tanks.
I will ward.
Attack Fire Giant!
On my way.
I can get a 3k bot. Let's do that. To you absolute asshole. Fucking mystical mail.
Drinking is for the hall. Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer. Enemy missing left. Enemy missing. Completed. Set up an ambush here.
I believe in you.
Been slain.
the TP didn't go off in time. I don't want to fight them. If we die here, we just lose everything, so it really is not worth it.
On my way.
Guess I'm not a tank.
Whoops.
Like, how is he doing 300 autos to me? Fuck ADCs and Smite 2, man. How is it still like this? I don't know, maybe I'm bitching a bit too much actually. I don't have that good. I'm gonna sell this. I'm gonna get this shit instead. I don't know why I don't have Spectral when he has crit. That's actually my fault. I take everything back. He's gonna die to gold.
Cancelled. Help! Okay. Attack the Gold Fury.
I'll defend left lane. Okay. Has arrived. I'll defend the fire giant. Attack the gold fury.
In the Fire Giant.
Enemies incoming.
Be careful.
Behind us. Your team has destroyed the gold fury. Rampage. Okay. Enemy ultimate down. Fight to the fullest. Rampage. What a great fight. An ally has been slain.
We see them coming in, boys. We shouldn't have fought that once you saw them coming in. I was too far away.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed. Your middle phoenix is under attack.
Oh. That was really awkward.
Deicide. Fine.
I had to try something though, because otherwise they just end. So, damn, that's 2 games in a row now where we just lose off of a single dumb fight that I feel like my team is just taking. Like, why would we do that? Gold isn't worth dying for, boys. Let it go. We literally saw them walking in through minions. Cupid did so much for them that game though. He absolutely carried the game for them. Wait, was that my demotion game? Or is it going to be my demotion game now? It's my demotion game now. Dude, I feel like I'm stuck in getting demoted and getting promoted now. I'm just stuck. Oh, that one stings though. I really feel like that one. That one was once again in our hands. Yeah, GG's. That one sucked to lose. Like, it stings even more when I'm saying I'm not there and they should be more careful. And we even see them coming in. Like, I think it's fine. If you want to take the fight for your 5, that's completely fine if you're confident in your ability to win it. But from what I could tell is that we just stuck to gold and we weren't really fighting and we just tried to get out and it was just too late. That's... It was just unfortunate and silly that we lost like that. I do not know what the fuck just happened. I was stuck in between the chucks. I tried to stop midair and land. Didn't work. Oops. It was still a fun game, I think, but I was fucking around way too much in the early game in that game. Trying to see if I could just take advantage of being instant uller, but Ducky turned it around on me a few times, and I mean, other times I was just stupid and dove into the tower for literally zero reason. And just died for it. It was fun though. Like, I haven't been against Ducky in a long ass time, so. I know he's employed now, so he doesn't stream as much anymore. When I came back to Smite in season 11, I watched a lot of Ducky. Ducky's just a cool guy. I aspire to be like Ducky when I grow up. Oh, I jumped way too early. It's raining trucks. What am I gonna play this game? I don't want to play Thor again. I'll do a Mordred game. Dude, Aphrodite was open? Fuck me, man. I should have picked her. Just because I don't want to deal with it. Now we gotta deal with it. I'm just so used to her being banned that I don't even think about her anymore. Unless I'm banning myself. I do hope she's going to support though. I don't want to deal with it in solo. It's so boring. That's just the worst part. Like, even with a hard matchup, that's one thing. Dealing with a boring matchup, that's actually just the worst. The fuck is that? What the fuck? Where am I supposed to go? Maybe I go down? I see. I'm not going down. I'm going up. I don't know if I should be hurrying or... Where the fuck am I going now? I have... Okay. I suppose maybe I had to keep going up. I'm not sure. Whatever. I didn't even show the game. That's my bad. I turn it on and off so often that I just forget. Alright. I want to try going Bluestone again. No, maybe not. Ori just feels too powerful because of the heal to me. Well, it's not even just the heal, it's the damage as well, but... The hell am I against? Could be any of them. I also don't know how to say your name. Mihai? Mihaiku Valor? It's the first part of your name I'm not really too sure about, but I don't think I've seen your name before. Are you a rename? I assume not, because you have the Bolt, which means it's a legacy name, right?
Minions have spawned.
Mihai? Okay. I think the Bolt means it's a legacy name, so it's the same name from Smite 1, something like that. Accurate stream title. Yeah. I very much try to be realistic. Not to put expectations too high. You know? I forgot my active. I sold it and then I forgot to rebuy it. Which then puts me in a weird spot. I'm gonna need to back for it, legitimately. Which just super sucks.
Your left tower is under
Close. Let's take some risks, buddy.
Be careful, right?
I'm just gonna try and regen here. I think I have the... Maybe not, we're kind of even in pots. We're both gonna regen up quite a bit.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
I can't miss my dash. Fucking hell. I can't do that shit. I held out. I came back in peace.
An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack.
Not for free though. I want to get something. Yeah, it's gonna go damage first. Meaning I need to be a bit careful until I finish Mythical Mail.
Your right
No, my relic! You're right, I forgot again. I'm sure it's fine. Oh. Like, who really needs relics anyway? I just looked over, you said no! I was like, why are you saying that? Oh, I remember. That's right, there is something I forgot. I'm gonna get it here. I swear. They also don't make it very obvious. I think that's another problem. They don't make it obvious that you're missing it. If you don't have it. If you don't like, get it the first time.
on my way.
Dude, there's no way, man. I am sad beyond repair. It was literally 1 HP. After that Sunder. See, I might as well not have had it active. I just wasted it. Now I don't have blue and I can't fight back as a result of it. Fuck me, man. Puts it behind an XP as well. Not even level 2. It's over.
Your left tower is under attack.
Blue gets stolen. My jungler's nowhere to be seen as usual on blue. I instantly get ganked. Also, I'm pretty sure I got double. Did I get double sundered? No, he doesn't have sunder. He has blink. Huh. So Fenris sundered me. Now it's gonna be Smite 2 on fucking hardcore. I don't know how I'm gonna come back from this game at this point. I'm so far behind in XP. And that's done. Yeah, of course it is. Mordred from behind is not scary. He's actual dog shit. Granted, I will still be a little bit useful just because, you know, once I have enough tank items, I'll still do Mordred things.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
Ultimate
Your
down.
middle tower is under attack.
Enemies in middle lane.
Let me make it. I have Sunder. He can't get it.
Killing spree. Double kill.
On my way.
You're killing.
There's no way. I'm so pissed.
That makes me sad.
Enemy ultimate down.
Can't tank it anymore. Ah, good shit. Is he the support? Yeah, I guess he must be. I can't really tell. I do wish I got one of the kills, but at least I am back in the game now. Yeah, he's not 10 on this wave, so it should be fine.
Watch yourself. Your left tower is under attack. Enemy spotted. Torment to your soul. Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. You have slain an enemy. To be immortal.
There we go. Finally.
Gold Fury.
Annoying but bitch, he's probably still doing my blue though.
Cancel that.
Nope. He could be waiting in the bush though. But I'm just gonna take that chance. Okay. Good.
Defend.
On my way.
I'm so paranoid every time I play against the bitch. Legitimately. He does the weirdest shit and he does it at the expense of nothing. Or everything, potentially.
On my way. Attack the Gold Fury. On my way. Enemy missing. Help! Ward here. Your middle tower is under attack. Ward here. Be careful. Retreat. Enemies in left lanes. Torment to your soul.
Be careful, right?
Shut down.
Let's get you next.
Killing spree. An enemy has been slain. On my way.
Enemies in middle lane.
Yes. Shut down. Your middle tower is under attack. Killing spree. Fire. Hey. Double kill.
You leave us able.
not getting killed. Where my gold?
Enemy missing. Spirit is strong, but your flesh was weak.
Just see both tanks avoiding, because we don't want to pull that thing, because of fucking mystical mails.
Your left tower. Enemies in left lane.
Well, they're not going tower, so maybe I can get this in time.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy spotted. Behind us. An enemy has been slain.
Retreat! Falling back!
Your left tower.
This man has the infinity stones.
Careful left. Your middle tower is under attack. You have been slain. Everything. Are you ready? On my way.
Should still be a good trade. That's so awkward.
Fire giant.
I kind of miss aimed my ult there.
Killing spree. Sorry.
Still, it ended up being good setup, but that was just annoying for me. Don't think I actually should have died. Then I couldn't get my dash off in time before he executed me.
Your team has destroyed the fire giant.
Take this jungle buff.
Okay. Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed. Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Attack. Right lane. Your right tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. An enemy has been slain. Shut down. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. You have slain an enemy. Immortal. Your middle tower is under attack. Yes. On my way. No problem.
Yeah, I miss you very much, Nectura.
Your team has destroyed.
You have no idea. was wondering where you went. Couldn't stop thinking about it. I was so worried.
On my way.
I really tried to get that shit. I really just needed it back. I had so much gold. That made it a bit awkward. Shit. Stampede, Glad Shield. There's so many physical defense items I want, and there's not a single magic defense items that I want. Either Mantle of Discord. I think Mantle of Discord is better than Magi's here, because they can just easily pop Magi's with their team comp.
On my way.
Shoguns? I don't think Shoguns is that good. Like, it's obviously nice to have. It feels more of a support item, because the base stats are kind of meh on it. I don't really like it.
On my way.
Why me?
Under attack.
Hold together!
Attack. An enemy has been slain.
That sucks. Just needs to hit my ult.
Enemy Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Gargoyle. The silence. I do think that is nice into some comps. I'm not sure this is one of them.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Not really too afraid. Like, it's obviously nice to have the silence, but I just think they're better items. If I really want, like, a magic protection item, I feel like only Hunters is still the best one. Like, maybe outside of getting beats. Obviously, beats is just always the best. Pretty much. you get beats. Like,
Enemies at the fire giant.
It's kind of crazy they went for fire when Agni isn't right. Who even got that? I have no idea. It wasn't me. I was trying to press my Sunder and that shit still had 2 seconds left on it. That's awkward as hell. But at least I blocked some Jing autos.
Attack left leg. Sorry.
This isn't really good. We need the lanes pushed, boys. We can't do much here. Like, we have 2 options in a situation like this. We either just go in and look for a fight because we're just much bigger and we should win. But that's still kind of risky when it's like right in front of the Titan room. Yeah, paper Titan. That shit died fast. You have 2 options. Obviously, as I said, fight, or you just push up all the lanes. Because now we had all the Phoenixes. They had just pushed both our left and our right so far that the 5 minutes were gonna take a fucking long time to get to us. And then we just do the split pushing thing, where we're looking for the fight as well as the minions pouring in. So either way, we're winning the situation. But yeah, didn't really need to do that since Sobek just dashed in, missed the plug, and that was enough setup for us to just all go in. Yeah, it sucks, Nate. This was also the fastest queue I've had today. I'm still a little salty at April. And just for context, last night I did a few games by myself. I met Deathwalker in lane, and April he camped the absolute shit out of me. I could see the fucking tent. It was a top quality fucking tent right inside my jungle. It was a terrible time. 2 games in a row. Granted, the second one I was a bit more prepared for it, and I picked something that was a bit harder to gank. But that was the thing is, it wasn't just camping. It was that both my enemies were also, very mechanically skilled to the point where I didn't have much counterplay with the gods that I was playing at the time. I was playing Achilles. I was against a Thanatos in lane on Deathwalker and Susano on April, so I just couldn't get away. Like, no matter what, there was no chance of me getting away from those 2. Next game I played Chuck, which made it much easier to deal with, but I still died. It was just, they had to work a bit harder for it. I'll do Mordred again. I'm in a Mordred mood. Get me up! Get me up! Get me up! Can't believe I made that. So happy for these conveniently placed trucks in my way. Where the hell do I go now, though? Where do I go? No! Not there. I don't know where to go from there. What's this horseshit? I'm being trolled. Does this? No, that doesn't lead anywhere. Oops. I accidentally tapped out as well. I don't know where to go from there.
You're next.
What am I against? Merlin? I guess? Horrible level design. I liked it until it became confusing. I thought it was pretty cool. Because I'm just climbing a big boss, but... Oh, you guys talking about something else, never mind. Don't mind me. I'll proceed to read one message out of the 20 that's been sent. Yeah, Nate, we win one game, yeah. I actually got so pissed last night that I kept playing until I won a game. After those two camping games. Because the one where they really just camped the shit out of me on Achilles, I went 2-11. And in that game, I decided I will keep playing until I win. Because that game really just... It's not that it pissed me off in like a bad way, it was just like... I'm just getting stubborn. Like, after a game like that, I'm gonna need a win, man. Otherwise I can't go to sleep. So I just went and played until I won.
Minions have spawned.
It's okay, I have my relic this time.
Until next time.
Almost made it for the third creep. It's not aspect, so you should still have like terrible cooldowns.
An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack.
Didn't get the dash in time. Yes. This skin very much reminds me of my Death Knight, yes. This skin in general is just very up my alley. I'm kind of an edgelord when it comes to like, what I like, I guess.
Like a wall up in one.
So, especially when it comes to like
So
action
sorry.
games. In action games, I want to just look cool and badass and like the big edgelord. But weirdly enough, I don't necessarily enjoy characters like that in movies and shows. It's just, I don't know. It's just a gaming thing. Yeah, I had to try. He was level 3 right in front of me. Ain't no way I'm not gonna just try and hold him.
I'm going for jungle buff.
Nah, I'm probably not gonna play much WoW anymore. I feel like that it's just past it. I tried. I came back and I played a little bit. Like, I never say never, right? But MMOs in general just isn't my type of game anymore. Like, online games as a whole. Smite is just an exception. Like, I tried Marvel Rivals as well. I played it for a week and then I got tired of it. You know, that type of stuff.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy missing.
Enemy missing middle!
Enemy missing right. Be careful, middle. An enemy has been slain.
I'm just out of mana. I want it back. One of the things with Mordred and why you want to just ult sometimes is because it charges so fast. You shouldn't hold on to it. Unless you maybe think you're getting ganked or something like that. Like in specific cases, sure. But you should just ult when you can on Mordred. It's just another ability. It charges so fast. Do not hold on to it.
An ally has been slain.
I'll use it to get back to my lane sometimes.
Killing spree. Enemy spotted. A frozen touch. Enemy ultimate down. Yummy.
I mean, it is kind of OP. It is an aspect of Mordred that is... Yeah. I thought about it, but I'm gonna go against my better judgment here. I don't want to do what I did against Ducky and just...
Behind us.
super smork.
Be careful.
No. Oh, we still got him. So 2 for 1 at least. Assuming he doesn't die here, but he might, because he's trying to fight Finn. Well done. Yeah, there is no cooldown on the ult. It charges up. You see the meter down here? That's my ult. The first bar is just like a short-range route, but when you charge it up twice, that is the big charging ultimate that you see I use to get around. And it is pretty OP. Like on paper, Motor Ultimate is very OP. It's like Arthur, if you know Arthur from Smite 1. It's literally the same thing. Rank 1 ult and rank 2 ult. That you just gotta charge by attacking. My spacebar is a 5th ability, yes. That is Mordred's passive. He's the only character in the game that has an interactable passive. And while that sounds really good, it didn't make him OP at first. He was pretty bad when he came out. He's been buffed a lot to get to this point. That is crazy. I'm 100% sure I was dead there.
Your left tower is under attack.
No problem.
Enemy ultimate down. Your left tower is under attack.
I am going for a full physical defense build into a magical damage dealer, so it is to be expected that I am taking a lot of damage from him. But Mojo without this build just isn't the same. It would be different if I was against something like Cabrakan, then would start beats. The beats item. I am losing my voice.
An ally has been slain.
I am ass.
The pirate has arrived. I'll attack.
Okay.
Your left tower is under attack.
That was just really bad by Ymir. I don't know why we need to do this in the first place.
Enemy ultimate down. Enemy missing right.
Don't think he needs to do that.
Gank. An ally has been slain. I'm just getting warmed up.
I'm getting the heck out.
Your left tower is under attack.
Follow me.
Completed.
An enemy has been slain.
I can take the heat.
You're killing me.
You have slain an enemy. Gank. Okay. Gank attack the gold. An enemy has been slain.
Okay.
Where the shifting side. Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
My spirit.
Escape death.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Enemy
Your right tower is under attack. Fire giant. No problem.
Let's get lost. Gank left lane.
Your left tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
I'll defend left lane. Defend middle lane.
Enemy missing left. Your team has destroyed the pyramid. That's so sweet.
These damn brutes. Die already.
On my way. An enemy has been slain. Attack the Cancel that. Enemies have returned to base.
That's too bad.
Okay.
Your death.
We need wards.
Kinda didn't see that coming. That was a big rotation.
Enemies behind us.
missing right.
I probably do need to grab Beat's item as well, just because of Fenrir. So I'll just do it. Screw it.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy
It's
tower.
not like I need anything else anyway, so. I just wasn't really planning on buying an item specifically for Merlin. Then I would just go, like, Discord or something instead.
Your middle tower is under attack. Ultimate is ready.
We're going so deep with this.
The enemy team has destroyed the gold. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower. Retreat right lane. Enemies incoming.
Just
We definitely do need to start doing some objectives.
Somebody take bomb.
Your team has destroyed the pyromancer.
That's so tragic, man. No one else but me tried to CC him, and he just ulted mine. Oh, I didn't catch anyone else but him. Why are we doing? What are we doing, man? Feels like we're throwing this super hard. Why does Ymir also have dagger? That should have gone to either me or Poseidon, I think.
Your middle tower is under attack. Cancel that. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
let's get lost in the sauce.
Yes.
They do have two ADCs. Oh, he's Deathbringer as well. Fucking hell, I need Spectral so badly.
Be careful. Your right tower is under attack. On my way. Has arrived.
Drop it low.
slain.
Be careful.
Slain.
Ward the fire giant. Have fun.
Your middle tower is under attack.
No, Thana, don't die. Aw, man. Like, this game is way, way too close considering we have double their amount of kills. It's not the right ult. I thought I had my rank 2. That sucks. That's tragic.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyromancer. Your right
Why would you keep attacking it, bro? Just stop.
Your right tower is under attack.
We need wards.
Spicy!
Yes. Completed. Yes.
Good motor ult gives vision, because holy shit. The police was on standby. Oh, I'm so split from them now.
Has been slain.
I suck. I actually just missed.
Your left tower is under attack. Double hit.
But I kept them busy at least.
Your left tower is under
Damn it.
attack.
I screwed that one up. Should've just beats the route. Didn't think I needed to.
Your
Am
team has
sad.
destroyed a middle enemy tower. Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
I don't know why we're not pushing mid. Like, am I crazy? Why didn't we just all group and push mid there? That makes no sense to me. The Phoenix should have been free. It was a 4v2.
Yes. I'll cut you down.
I wanted Glad Shield, but I'm just gonna go Stampede. I need chaseability.
Tower is under attack.
And it's just better in terms of like teaming,
We need wards.
The pyro has
or for
arrived.
team fighting and stuff. Neath beats.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy Phoenix.
I'm so stressed this game. One misstep, I'm just dead. They have so many backliners.
An ally has been slain.
Until next time. On my way.
Has been slain.
My spirit.
An enemy has been
It's
slain.
missing everything over here.
Attack the fire giant.
Now that Bib's dead, maybe we can actually get it.
Anything that gets in my way will be destroyed. That's fire! I am amazed. Wonderful.
Your left tower is under attack.
Didn't need to Sundry it, but I don't want to take any chances. I feel like I mistimed it anyway. Yeah, I mean, if you want some easy solo laners at the moment, I feel like Modred takes more skill than someone like Cabrakan at the moment. Like Cabrakan, Thor are by far the strongest as well as the most powerful solo laners at the moment. You just build them tank and you're useful no matter what you do. On Modred you still need positioning. He doesn't have like high mobility. He does have an extra little dash here, but that's literally it. His ultimate can easily get blocked against good players. They will look to try and block it, so you can't get away. Cabrakan is pretty low mobility as well, but he's just way more tanky. He's got a passive that makes him a lot more tanky than most other frontliners.
Attack left tower.
I say a lot. It's not really like an insane amount, but it is extra, and when you have a lot of items, then mitigation specifically is going to do a lot.
Enemies in right lane. Slay an enemy.
Awesome time.
Yeah, I think this was just mainly a competitive. If we group and we actually play together as a team, we should not lose any team fighting. Let me see. What time is it? I can do one last game. One last. Then that's gonna be it. When you treat, most of the time you ignore the green orb. You mean the small one in the jungle? It doesn't make a huge difference. Like, it's only like a very small, like 5%. That won't really make a big difference. That's less than an auto attack in the grand scheme of things. So most of the time it's not worth it unless you're planning on sticking around just a little longer. First pick, huh? Don't like that. But maybe I just play Mordred again. Odin.
Select your god.
I'm sure it's fine. It also depends on who is piloting the Bari. Yeah, there's too many gods. I was looking at the list, I'm like, Sobek's banned, or like, Aphrodite was banned, she's usually my go-to. I don't know why I forgot about Bari, to be honest. I've been banning a few times today. What am I dealing with if I'm going against Bari, though? I'll grab Hades. It's nice into Artemis as well. It's scary into Bacchus. The thing is, Bari has a weakness. It's mobility. She's not that fast. Granted, she does have her 3, and she is annoying. Like, she moves around a bit, but if you have a god that is fast, she's not gonna get away. Like, she's never getting away from something like a Bracken. She's not getting away from Thor. Chuck can run her down as well. Like, it's... You don't even need, like, high mobility gods to really deal with her. Yeah, Yamoja, like anything with walls, like in general, it's very good into her. So Ymir, like she's not as big of a problem as people think she is. What she's really good at is that she's got very, very annoying and hard to deal with poke. If you level her 3, that is. She's got a lot of burst going into late game. Oh shit, it's Asta as well. Damn it. Like I think we have a good comp against her, but we do need to be careful. I need beats this game.
You have morbid taste.
Terrific!
Who am I against, actually? It's the same guy from before. I do need to be careful. It is Aspect Chuck, though, so... Not as scary, because he can actually be poked.
Minions have spawned.
I am definitely a bit worried, because if we fall behind against their comp, we're so fucked. But if we get a lead, they have very, very easy characters to kill on their backline.
Thanks.
To the face! To the face! First blood.
Be careful left. Enemy missing.
Gonna see if I can just grab this TP over the wall. Or TP dash.
Beat Artemis.
Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Is that blink? Chuck blink.
Ultimate is down. Enemy spotted.
Don't even think I actually needed to beat it. I just didn't want to take any unnecessary damage.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your skills. Enemy ultimate down. Shimmering radiance. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I don't think he's gonna go for my blue, so I will just stick around. I just need 100 gold.
On my way.
Your left tower is under attack.
No! Oh, dude, if that was me, I would have died to the tower. Every time. Every single time.
An ally has been slain.
The underworld calls for me.
Bro.
Thanks.
Let's go grab these. The more power I get, the faster I will reach good Hades.
Glory. missing left. Enemy spotted. Slain an enemy. Nice job.
Gank right lane.
Have fun out there.
On my way.
Enemy spotted.
He's here.
It's a nice bitch gank. Love to see it.
I mean, where does she know that you coming?
Retreat! An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack.
He went
Your
prophetic.
middle tower is under attack.
It's interesting, considering prophetic is just not good at the moment. It's kind of terrible, to be honest.
An ally has been slain.
Not in range.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slaved.
That's so annoying.
An enemy has been slain.
Didn't think she was gonna be right there.
Full volt.
Enemy missing left. Your middle tower is under attack.
Spy full item here. Go Tessa.
Gank middle lane. Help middle lane.
An ally has been slain. Your
Bro, her, can you stop dying, bro? You're level 7, bro. Which rank you're at?
right lane. On my way.
Yeah.
The bitch has been extra criminal lately. He really has.
Your middle tower is under
Alright,
attack.
see you, Nectura. The thing is, Nectura, it is already
Drop.
at...
Your right tower is under
It's at
attack.
10 now. It might be glitched.
Has been slain.
Some people are just way too loud. And I don't understand why. I turned it so far down, but still. That must be a setting problem, because it doesn't seem to work.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That sucks, but he should get him eventually, hopefully. Nope, never mind. Pretty sure he's out. Oh no, he might be dead now. Hit him, no. Ah, sad. Training myself for a jungler is still fine, but he's 2 levels below me, so in this case it's not really. I did get the kill though, which helps.
I mean, you go hurt
Killing spree.
with gold blade. You're a fucking sub.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing middle.
I see someone in the jungle.
Enemy spotted.
Might be Bacchus. I'm just not gonna leave.
Kirk, are you playing arena or why are you walking everywhere? Stay on what comes.
It's so funny knowing the bitch. The way he plays.
Your left tower is under attack.
They healed me for nothing.
An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower. Enemy missing left.
Okay.
An ally has
What
been
are you
slain.
doing?
Leave the worrying to me.
He's probably trolling now. I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
An ally has been slain.
Get me out.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Help middle lane.
On my way.
Damn, bots lived.
Down.
Kirk is sleeping.
Have slain an enemy. An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Maybe raid us up. Nice. I heard bots, I don't want to risk it a blue, but I'll take a red.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
Probably need to start rotating more. They're kind of at a disadvantage with the bitch doing the bitch things.
Be careful left. Enemy missing middle.
Okay.
Gank middle lane. Okay. On my way.
Enemy ultimate down.
Attack.
Enemy ultimate down. Killing spree. Shut down.
Attack the fire giant.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Take it. Eat it.
Your team has destroyed the fire giant. Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed. Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed. An enemy has been slain.
Holy shit. His healing aura as well as standing in the rain. Barely I could even attack. It's crazy.
Their soul is for the taking.
Do we really need to buy Obsidian Shard? Probably. Chug is getting very tanky to me.
Group up.
Yes.
They're on gold. Or not?
Attack the gold fury.
They have Oracle, so we need to be careful.
Be right back. Be careful. On my way. Deadly mistake.
I'm gonna split push.
Be careful left. No problem. Attack middle lane.
Attack right lane.
Your team destroyed a middle enemy tower. An enemy has been slain. Your team destroyed a right enemy tower.
It should be a 3v3. Problem is they have a tank here. So we cannot tank it. Well, they might... Yeah, they can just tank shit forever, so...
If you go in, I can ult. So
Killing spree. Slain an enemy.
They carry low.
yes, finally.
Good game. Bye.
That was a bit...
Hey, you're welcome.
Fucking bitch. He is really skilled. I feel like he's very mechanically skilled, but he does the most random shit. Alright, that's gonna be it for me though. I think I made some progress today. Yeah, it's pretty good actually. I think I ended up getting a small winning streak towards this end. Yeah, that's nice. I had some rough games in the beginning, I feel like, but I'm happy I could pick it up a bit. But thank you guys for stopping by as usual. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. But which is not tomorrow, because I'm playing in the tournament tomorrow. Whatever it's called. SNL? No, I forget what it's called.